In this episode of the HX1 tonner build, going to get back into the actual tonner itself. Now, in the last episode, we got all the tray finished off, and I'm glad to get all the tray done and I can start getting back into the actual tonner and finish off this chassis area. Now, if you weren't aware, in previous episodes, I had to cut out the mounts for the drop tank and also cut this rear cross member out so I could drop the chassis down 20 mil on the right hand side. So it was bent up about 20 mil compared to the other side, and yeah, I had to get all that squared before I started building the tray. So because of that, I need to re-weld the mounts back in for the drop tank, and then there's areas that I've obviously opened up to weld in the mounts for the struts, and also when I've done all the rear bar, all this will need to be all repainted again. So I might as well just repaint the whole chassis from the cab backwards. So yeah, there's a few jobs I want to do before then though. I obviously need to mount the mounts for the drop tank. I think I'm going to cut these corner sections out for the lights. I've been meaning to do that for a while, so I'll cut that out on the corners and then re-weld a piece in there. Another thing, before I repaint it, I've been thinking about this for a while, but with this bar for the 4-link, it's basically only just a 40 by 40 piece of square hollow section welded in there, and I'm actually thinking I might try and reinforce that. I sort of done that with the front bar, so you can just see that gusset there that I've welded in just to add a bit more strength for this bar here. So I think what I'm going to do is do the same on this as well. So there's going to be quite a lot of sort of force up and down on there, and I just sort of don't really think there's much weld holding this bar in, so I do kind of want to reinforce that, I'm thinking. So yeah, I might as well do that before I repaint it. And what I was thinking is I might weld in some gussets, kind of like a 45-degree gusset, just using another piece of 40 by 40, similar to what I've done here. But the only problem is, this brake line is kind of in the way, so I'm gonna have to remake this brake line. Actually, I just sort of, hang on. I think I've just had another thought there. Yeah, so I actually think that there's plenty of room underneath here to then weld a piece underneath instead. Because the force is up and down, it's probably going to make sense to weld a piece underneath. And it looks like there's plenty of room on both sides, and then weld a gusset underneath there. So yeah, I think that's what I'll do instead actually, and then I won't have to remake that brake line. Okay, I've just jacked up that rear end and dropped the diff down, and that's as far as I can drop that diff down before the tail shaft hits the exhaust. So I've just got it supported with some blocks there, but that gives me pretty good access now to the chassis. So yeah, good access so I can start welding some bits in. But before I start welding anything in, I might go get a welding blanket just to wrap up the diff and the exhaust. I just don't want any sparks getting on the diff and the exhaust and marking it. I do have these blankets. I've kind of used these before, but they are sort of flammable. You get some sparks on it and it does light up. So I'm not going to use them. I might go get a proper welding blanket for that. Righto, just been back from another supply run, and I do have to say the amount of product and shit that goes into these builds is, there's so much that goes into them. Done so many trips out to Harts Paints, whether it's, wax and grease remover, tape, filler, drop sheets, all that sort of stuff. There's so much stuff. I can't remember how many trips I've been out to the paint supplier. But anyway, I probably haven't done myself any favors. Like, this is all rework. So if I thought a lot smarter with this build, probably could have done it a lot simpler and easier and not done this rework. So a lot of this stuff you know, is all extra stuff that I've had to buy after doing the job once. So I guess it's all a part of the learning experience. If I was to do another build after this, I'd definitely do it a lot smarter and get it right the first time. So yeah, it's all learning, I suppose. But anyway, I did get a welding blanket. So this is just a level one. You can get a fiber one, which apparently if you are using the fiber one, it can be quite itchy when you are laying on it or just moving it around and stuff. If you get it on your skin, it can be quite itchy. So I thought I'd get the level one. It is a little bit more expensive, but yeah, it saves that getting itchy. And while I was out at Hearts Paints, I thought I'd get a masking machine. Now I should have got one of these bloody ages ago because they are very handy. So it's just a machine, you've got a roll of paper that sits on it and you put a roll of masking tape, and then when you pull the paper out, the masking tape comes with the paper on the outer edge, and then it just makes it so much easier to mask up your jobs. So yeah, it wasn't that expensive, so I thought I'd get one of them as well. I've just made up a couple of little gussets like so. They're just going to sit underneath here. So I'll weld them in. That's going to provide a bit more strength in this cross member. It's obviously a lot of up and down force, so I'd hate for that to crack and come out. So I think now's definitely the time to do it rather than later. It's not going to hurt. It's only a little bit extra time to weld them in. And it's going to make me feel a little bit more comfortable about that being welded in there. Okay, I've just cut out the corners around the tail lights here and then welded a piece in here, and I think that has turned out really good. I'm quite happy that I've done that. A little bit extra time, but definitely worth it. I was gonna maybe sort of curve these corners around with the tail light here, but I quite like that kind of sharp, angular kind of look. I think that looks quite nice. So anyway, I have also welded in the gussets, I've welded in the strut mounts, fully welded that in. So the last thing I've got to do now is just weld in the mounts for the drop tank, and then she's pretty much all ready then to spray some epoxy. Okay, that drop tank, it's all mounted in there. I've got all these welded in, and I have drilled some holes. So I ended up using a piece of angle, 40 by 40, drilled some holes in there, and then the drop tank just sits on the angle. Could probably actually mount it from underneath, so actually lift it up underneath, and then that way when you do want to pull the drop tank out, you'll be able to just pull it out from underneath without having to pull that tray off. I think actually, I'm not sure whether you'd get that out with the tray up. You probably would, but it'd be a bit of a prick, so it'd probably be a lot easier to come up from underneath and mount it, the other way. But anyway, I've got all the lights in there, and I'm really stoked with how that's all looking. It's looking nice and clean. So I think them angles that I cut out suit that drop tank, so it all sort of ties in pretty well together, I reckon. So yeah, I'm pretty much all ready to start spraying some epoxy, so I'll start pulling all this back out. I've got this cross member that I made up for the front there that holds the tray, and I think what I'll do is I'll blank this piece off here. So yeah, there's like an open hole there. I'll put a blanking plate over that and weld that in, and that's just, yeah, sort of going to make it look a bit nicer. So I'll get that done, and then yeah, I'll start spraying some of the epoxy on over the exposed areas. Okay, she's all prepped, ready to go. I've welded in that blanking plate on the end of that bar there, and that looks a hell of a lot better. And then I've gone over everything just with some 120 grit sandpaper, and then any exposed metal I've treated it with the deoxit, and yeah, started masking it up. And I was about to start spraying and it started drizzling, so yeah, it's only very faint, but I checked the humidity and it's about 71%, so it's about 5 o'clock. So I think what I'm going to do is wait till tomorrow before I spray the epoxy on, which is a little bit annoying because it's going to set me back a day. I was hoping to get this sprayed on today and then leave it overnight and then start using filler tomorrow and get all this smoothed off, and then I can paint the black on Monday. But yeah, that's going to set me back. Okay, it's a new day and it's a little bit overcast today, but I just checked the weather and it's about 60% humidity, so I think it should be right to get this epoxy sprayed. Okay, so we got that in the epoxy and gave it 2 coats and it went on really well. So I'll let that dry overnight. And then what I'll do is I'm gonna smooth off this chassis. So from the cab backwards, I'll smooth it off. I never originally smoothed that chassis off when I painted it the first time. I just, yeah, painted it. I kind of regret it. I just think spend that bit extra time, put some filler on it and smooth it off. It's going to make a hell of a lot of difference. When the tray's up and you're sort of looking down, I just want to get rid of, you know, some of these imperfections. You got like the ripples here and you got this seam, grinder marks, some marks down the side. So I just think, yeah, give it a good skim over. It's going to make a hell of a lot of difference. But yeah, I would have liked to get all this in the KBS and get it all back together, but I'm just running out of time to get this episode out. I know it wasn't the most exciting episode, but I'm glad to get a few of them jobs ticked off anyway. So we got the drop tank mounted back in, got the gussets done, got them corners cut off, and yeah, we've got it all in the epoxy. So yeah, that's one step closer to getting this thing finally finished. As I mentioned, I'm glad to get them jobs on the back there finished off. They've been sitting, waiting to be done for a while now, so I can now move forward, get this painted, and then move back onto the cab. So as I mentioned before, I'm going to repaint this thing and I've booked in for April. So I'm going to fly someone up from Melbourne and they're going to give me a hand to get this thing repainted. We're going to do it in a spray booth, so do it properly this time. And then in between now and then, I've just got a heap of little jobs I need to finish off. So I want to get all these little jobs finished off, so then when it comes time to paint, it's all just going to be final assembly, and then hopefully the thing will be finished not long after it's painted. If you want to help support the channel, there's still 15% off on the merch store until the end of the month. So I'll put a link in the show notes below, and that 15% discount code will be applied when you click on that link. Or you can just use the discount code Shenki15. I'm pretty much just about to hit 8,000 subscribers, so I'm chasing that 10,000 milestone. I keep banging on about the 10,000, but to me, the 10,000 is a big milestone. So I would appreciate it if you guys could help me out and click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Also, leave a comment. I read most comments. If you have any questions or any feedback, then yeah, leave it in the comment section. If you are new to the build, I highly recommend checking out the playlist for this 1-tonner. I'll put a card up in this corner here. So click on that card and it'll be a playlist of the very first episode all the way to the latest. So you have a binge on that. So yeah, we'll leave it with that and we'll see you next time on Shenki Garage. Cheers.